Good evening, everyone. My name is Margie Sanchez, and tonight I will be speaking with you about civil rights law. Civil rights law is about so much more than just representing a racial group. It is about granting American citizens their most basic human rights. Some of the most popular movements have been those of African Americans during the civil rights era, as well as women's suffrage. Civil rights law is important because it affects how successfully we are able to live our life as American without making anyone else feel uncomfortable. Being a part of a minority may sometimes make you feel like you're worth a lot less than the majority group on occasion, but these civil rights laws were actually put into effect to counter that thought, those ideals. I'm presenting this speech to help you understand the importance of knowing that no matter what you may be seeing on a day-to-day basis, your rights do matter, and there are too many people who have fought for your ability to be sitting in the position in which you are today for you to feel that you are anything less than magic. The law of the United States of America was created by federal, state, and local legislatures such as judges, the president, and state governors. They were created to protect every individual in this country, including you. It is very important for laws to be enforced because without them, there would be no structure to society, and we as citizens would not be able to make proper use of the privilege that we have to evolve and grow within our wonderful society. African Americans were introduced to the United States as slaves in the early years of European settlement. It was not until 1861 that the slaves were actually freed and allowed to live their life and make a name for themselves. Although free, African Americans faced several injustices due to the belief that their white counterparts were more superior to them solely because of the color of their skin. Jim Crow laws were used throughout the South in order to lawfully keep blacks out of what white people thought were their personal establishments. This caused a lack of equal education, equal opportunity, and even equal dining options. It wasn't until 1954, after the Supreme Court established separate public schools for black and white students, also known as the separate but equal, to be unconstitutional in the famous Brown versus Board of Education case that the civil rights movement began. This included movements such as sit-ins, marches, and several other moments of civil resistance. Actually, here in Greensboro, North Carolina, we hosted the Greensboro sitting. These were sit-ins conducted by students that actually attended North Carolina A&T State University. These students felt that it was unlawful for them to not be able to sit and eat wherever they felt like, so they hosted these sit-ins. These are the students, and at these sit-ins, they were mistreated and they did face a lot of strife, but that did not stop the civil rights movement. In 1964, the Civil Rights Law was passed to ban discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in employment practices, also including voting and segregation laws. Watching the civil rights movement unfold inspired many other minority groups who felt that their voices were being stifled to stand up for themselves as well. The United States saw a backlash coming from Native Americans, Latinos, LGBTQ communities, and many, many more, which provided to be good for the country's ability to grow and learn about tolerance. Another major movement that proved to aid in the country's progression is the women's rights movements, which began in 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. Before this began, women were considered to be the property of men and only held value if they were married with children. It was as if a woman had no place in society, if not just to cater to a man and kids in the home. If there was a job to be had, it would be one of clerical work, styling, nails, very superficial, very simple things that men thought women were only capable of doing. Anything that provided a more complex thought process, such as being an engineer, that was not really a job considered for a woman. Women and men attended the convention in Seneca Falls to begin the conversation about women's rights and how they could change the lives of other women by acting on the injustices they all face in this country. About 20 years later, the Women's Suffrage Association was created to fight for the women's right to vote. Following 1893, several states such as Colorado, Utah, California, and New York began to allow women to vote, but it still had not reached the federal level. Finally, in 1920, the law is passed giving the American woman the right to vote, causing a snowball effect on the granting of several other rights that were kept from us originally. Women were allowed to work. They were allowed to practice several different birth control methods, fight for equal pay and acknowledgement to their male counterparts, and several other things. This affected future generations by granting them the right to be looked at as business women, educators, and soldiers rather than Susie Homemaker mode being forced onto them. Aside from the specific rights gained by women and other minority subgroups, there are many other civil liberties that apply to any and everybody that are of great importance to acknowledge and practice. The first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution give us a rundown of our most basic and important rights we are all granted by society. These rights are freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and the right to petition, the right to bear arms, no quartering for troops, denial of unreasonable search and seizure, as well as many more. These are all of our most basic rights and important rights because citizens are of a democracy who work and live in this country. Our founding fathers thought that it was only right to allow us to practice laws as we please, without harming those who carry the weight of this country on their backs on a regular basis. Some of us have had to fight a little harder to have these rights applied to us, but nonetheless, they are, in fact, our rights. In today's society, some people may think that there is no just cause for these laws because it seems as though the government is doing as they please. I have given this speech, if not to do anything else, to remind everyone that the people before us did not have the luxury of living the life we are today. It is because of these civil rights that we have seen progression. It is because of these rights that we have become the powerful country that we are today. It is because of these rights that we are the land of the free. And it does not matter if you are white or black, gay or straight, or even man or woman. We must continue to enforce the equality and progression of every single American citizen if we want to continue to be the powerhouse we are known as. Thank you.